Hello, welcome to Nurs 241, Fetal Growth and Development. Session 2, we are going to look at embryonic and fetal period. The embryonic and fetal period starts after implantation, which we discussed in session 1. It is during this period that the body parts are formed. The embryo rests in the amnion fluid with amniotic fluid. Umbilical cord joins the embryo to the placenta. The fetus beginning to increase in size and the system begins to function. So in this session, we'll look at the developmental stages from the fertilized ovum embedment till term. Topics to be discussed include development of the embryo and development of the fetus. Reading list. Development of the embryo. The fertilized ovum is called an embryo after implantation until it's 8 weeks old. During this period, all the organs and the system of the body are formed but are not matured. Let's look at what happens in the blastocyst. That's the development of the embryo. The inner cell mass forms the fetus, the amnion, and the umbilical cord. The trophoblast, which we have also discussed in the first session, develops into placenta and the colon. 6 to 7 days after fertilization, the blastocyst begins to embed in the uterus, and it is completely buried by the 10th day. Changes in the inner cell mass. By this time, as the embedment has taken place, the cells also differentiate into 3 layers. I mean the cells in the inner cell mass. These layers are ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Each will form a particular part of the fetus. Later on, you see 2 cavities appearing, and these are the amniotic cavity and the yolk sac. The amniotic cavity is lined by ectodermal cells, and the yolk sac is lined by endodermal cells. So as you can see, this is the amniotic cavity and this is the yolk sac. Amniotic cavity is lined by ectodermal cells and the yolk sac is lined by endodermal cells. In between the cavities so somewhere here is the mesodermal cells. The region where the 2 cavities come close to each other is the embryonic plate or disc. So in between the 2 cavities, just in between them is the embryonic disc or plate where the fetus is formed. So these ectodermal cells develop into the central nervous system, the skin, the hair, the eyes, the nails, the salivary gland, the nasal cavity, the teeth, the amnion, the liquor, the lower part of the anal canal, the genital tract, the endodermal cells which lines the yolk cavity or yolk sac also develops into digestive tract, the liver, the pancreas, the larynx, the trachea, the lungs, the bladder, and the urethra. The mesodermal cells develops in between here, develops into the heart, the blood vessels, the lymphatics, the bones, the muscles, and the gonads. So this is what I have just explained. Amniotic cavity grows and becomes big as the embryo develops. It is then filled with fluid called amniotic fluid in which the fetus grows. As the sac enlarges, it envelopes the embryo, and it is the region of the membrane amnion. The yolk sac, it is enclosed by the growing fetus. It provides nourishment for the embryo until the trophoblast is sufficiently developed to absorb nutrients. And some of the mesodermal cells develop to form the body stalk. Those elongate and become the umbilical cord. Early development of the placenta. The placenta develops from here. Tiny projections appear all over the blastocyst. So this is the blastocyst, and these are the tiny projections, and they are known as the primitive chorionic villi. The villi growing in the decidual basalis, which we have discussed earlier on, get more nourishment and grow thick and more vascular and forms the placenta. The villi growing in the decidual capsularis later comes into contact with the decidual villi and flattens to form the membrane chorion. So this is what I have discussed. So look at the embryonic period from 14 days. The primitive blood vessels for the embryo begins to grow in the mesoderm. From 14 to 28 days, the embryonic blood vessel connects up with the blood vessels in the chorionic villi of the primitive placenta. Then embryonic or maternal circulation is thus established and blood is circulating. The head of the embryo can be distinguished from the body at this stage, and the leg backs and then the arm bags also appear. Within that period, an attitude of flexion gradually appears. Major body systems are present. The heart bulges from the body and begins to pulsate. From 28 to 42 days, the length is about 12 millimeters by the end of the 6th week, and the arms also begins to elongate. The eyes and the ears are apparent, but they are low set. So at 8 weeks, it marks the end of the embryonic period. Then the fetus begins to develop. Let's look at the development of the fetus. At 8 weeks is about 2.5 cm. The nose, the external ear, fingers, and toes can be seen. The head flexion can also be seen in the chest. Then at 12 weeks is 8 centimeters. The placenta is formed, called as twisted, and Nurs forming at that stage. Then at 20 weeks, the hair and lanungu are also formed. 24 weeks is 30 cm. Eyelids are separated, eyebrow and eyelashes are present. 28 weeks is about 35 cm. Skin is red, covered in lanungu, subcutaneous beginning to form, and the testes will be descending as well. At 32 weeks, nose reaches the end of the fingers, skin is red, and other things are also forming. 36 weeks, the skin becomes pink. There's abundance of lanungu present, and the subcutaneous also increasing. Then 40 weeks, we say the baby is at 10, and it's usually 50 cm. The skin is pink, lanungu has disappeared, the venous is decreasing, there's plenty of subcutaneous fat, the skull is hard, and the testis is in the scrotum. We have been looking at development of the embryo and development of the fetus. Thank you.